How often have you seen grandmasters playing a specific move order? Well, I assume you might have recognized it then very often, and you might have missed it, then you haven't recognized it, obviously. However, move orders play a significant role in the game of strong players. And today we are going to take a look at the game between the former European champion of the women, Danielian, where she actually got into a very good position by using some move order tricks or the mistakes of her opponent, and stay until the end because this game is very instructive. White is being played by Elina Danielian, a grandmaster and former European champion. Black by Danielian-Aulia, an Indonesian and international master. So white starts the game with knight f3, then followed knight f6, g3, b6, bishop to g2, bishop b7, c4, c5. And white castles. Usually in these positions, a move like e6 is very popular because after d4, c takes d4, queen takes d4, black just plays the hedgehog setup against the English, with the bishop on e7, the b knight on d7, and the bishop on b7, a very solid setup. But in the game, black plays something very different, g6, and this is a double fianchetto. So black is putting the bishops on b7 and g7, and this has been played by players like Kasparov, so very strong players. White continues with knight to c3, bishop to g7, and now d4. After c takes d4, it's very important not to play moves like knight takes d4, because then the white squared bishops are exchanged, and this isn't in white's interest. At least yet. If this pawn was at least on a6, one could claim that black has weakened the white squares a little bit. But in this case, no. White doesn't want to exchange them. So queen takes d4. Now we arrived in a very critical position, and black should not castle. But why? Well, usually the players wait with d6. So a waiting move, basically, and also a useful move because the knight can go to d7. Rook d1, the most popular move, and now knight b to d7, and bishop to e3. Now bishop to e3 has been played, and this is a very important moment. Let's say black plays rook c8, then rook c1, and now black castles, and now queen h4. Obviously trying to get something on the king's side. a6, b3, and now a move like, let's say, rook e8. So the question is bishop h6 working here? And the answer is it's very dangerous actually, because of moves like bishop takes h6, queen takes h6, and now b5 playing against this pawn. But it looks like black is just sacrificing a pawn. So let's see. C takes b5, a takes b5, knight takes b5, white won a pawn, you might think. But actually, black has a very strong move here. Can you find it? I will give you a couple of seconds. It's queen to b6. Not only hitting this knight on b5, but also putting pressure on f2. And there is another issue. Let's say the knight just goes back, then knight to g4, increasing the pressure, but also attacking the queen. And now white is in a dilemma. What to do with the queen and how to defend f2. Two issues which cannot be solved. White is completely lost. So bishop to h6 doesn't work. But in the game, instead of d6, black just castled right away. And now all these ideas are not working because the bishop here hasn't moved yet to e3. But we will see right in a moment. Queen h4 played, d6 now, rook d1, knight to d7, and now there is no bishop on e3, and white is free to play bishop h6 in one move without wasting this tempo on e3 and then to move it on h6. And now there is no a6 played, no rook c8, so this is probably just good for white, because in the previous position we had this inserted. But here there is no queen b6 attacking anything, so white is very fine. And then rook e8 was played, rook ac1, all very logical moves. Rook c8, also trying to control c5 and maybe use this square, and b3 was played. Now a6, you can see all of these moves are basically the moves from the previous setup with bishop to e3, with the difference that the bishop is already on h6, and this is very important. So now I believe white got too ambitious, because white could just have taken on g7 and then play something like queen d4, queen d2, and then knight d4 or h4, and try to exploit the fact that the black squared bishops have been exchanged, and the king might be a little bit weakened, or the king's side, because of the absence of this bishop and g6. So the fianchettoed bishop has been exchanged. This should be usually good for white. However, in the game, bishop to h3 was played. And after rook c5, which is hinting at rook h5, white got nervous and played the blunder g4. Now again, take your time and try to punish this mistake. I will give you a couple of seconds again. So I hope you found this solution, but let me know which moves you calculated in the comment section, because I'm very interested. So the most logical move, and the move you might have calculated first here, is bishop takes f3. But why is it strong? Well, let's take a look. E takes f3, and now knight e5, attacking f3, forking king and queen, very unpleasant, but this queen also needs to defend the bishop on h6, so it's a little bit overloaded. So bishop to g2 is forced, and now a very beautiful move by black, g5. So after bishop takes g5, there is simply knight g6, and the queen cannot go back to g3 because of rook takes g5. And alternatives are not working, because bishop f6, then knight h4, and white just gained two minor pieces for the queen. Bishop and knight are not enough. So let's go back. So therefore, queen h3 was played by Danielian, and now black plays knight to g6, controlling further squares. And this is a very unpleasant position for white. White is completely lost. Bishop takes g7, king takes g7, bishop f1, trying to get some space for the queen, but then followed the simple h5 move. Well, white tried to get the f1 square for the queen with bishop to d3, but it's already late, because after knight f4, queen f1, black is just in time to grab the pawn on g4 with h takes g4, h takes g4, f takes g4, and knight takes g4, winning a pawn. And this position is very unpleasant for white, because black just plays logical moves. After knight d5, just rook h8, and the pawn on h2 is under attack. So bishop f5 was played, and after knight takes h2, white decided to resign. Let's see why. The queen is lacking space. It has only one square to go, because all other squares are covered by the knight. And after queen e1, there is knight to f3 check. So we covered a very important topic, the move order issue. But as you can see, black still had chances, or used the chances, and white should have watched out for these issues. As always, I hope you enjoyed the video and the game. If you did so, feel free to leave a like, and if you want to see more of such content, subscribe the channel. See you.